Another year has flown by, so like what I do with Season Roundup, I'm here to grab the best anime that I've watched and enjoyed over the past year and recap my favorite anime of 2019. Ground rules as usual, so listen up. This is not a ranked list. In fact, it's pretty much in order of season date as long as I didn't get anything mistaken, so don't cry because I talked about some anime above another. This is just everything I liked a hell of a lot over this past year. I won't cover everything, so there is a high chance that you like something either I didn't or haven't seen as of yet. That's cool, and feel free to tell me what you enjoyed. All I ask is you don't act like a Rick and Morty fan when something you love doesn't pop up. With that said, let's kick off this bad boy because I adored 2019 in terms of its anime output. The anime with a name I always mispronounce was a series that I loved consuming week by week, except that one week where the director smoked some weird herbs, and I don't know what the hell happened. This was a series that sucked me into its brutal world where a father sold his son to demons and what was left was anything other than a human. Watching a man killing demon after demon to regain what was stolen from him as he fights to become a human while actually becoming those that he is killing is an exhilarating adventure. A man who is robbed of his humanity, yet every step of the way he becomes more of a demon, the more human he actually becomes and the conflict that brings. It's a fantastic retelling of such a classic tale that I still look back at fondly. I've enjoyed Mob Psycho since its beginning, but this season really was something else. Even people I know who were on the fence about what Mob Psycho was changed their tune with this season, as the development between Mob and Reagan still stands out as one of the highlights of 2019 across the board. You still have the insane animation and fight sequences, but backed by top-tier character development and story progression that leaves your mouth watering needing to see more, while also being completely satisfied all at the same time. I thought I'd hate Shield Hero. My friend Ryan was sure as hell he'd hate it, yet we both loved it so damn much. Just starting your hero at the bottom because of a scummy chick, which in return makes the entire kingdom hate you as you're forced to train and protect them, turns the most generic idea and setting into a gripping journey. It has plenty of cliches and tropes, but what this isekai does is it takes those gimmicks to hook the casual watchers while telling a compelling narrative to keep people like me watching every single week. When they announced more seasons, I was jumping for joy, as unlike with most series with a setting like this, there's actually more story left to tell, and I can't wait to see where Naofumi will go from here, which is a first for a serious isekai anime, at least for myself. No one other than myself will probably put a show about his roommate that happens to be a cat in their best of the year list, but what can I say, this was an exceptional show. Emotionally broken characters are just my thing, and the idea of mending someone's heart with a cat companion who actually has her own voice and perspective in the show, while obviously separating the two as well, it's a cat and they can't talk like a human, makes for an emotionally charming show. One that I laughed at, one that I teared up at, and one that I just continue to think about. Watch it. Believe me when I say, it's more than anime cats, but rather genuine relationships and healing the soul. Neverland was everything I wanted as a manga reader despite many voicing displeasures with changes and liberties the teams took. But watching an orphanage fight for their life and freedom to escape the hell that is their home with intelligent directing choices and eerie sound direction made for one of the best horrors and thrillers in recent memory. The first season stands tall as its own story, with a future bright with possibilities both with a new narrative direction and familiar ideas. Neverland wasn't some flavor of the season, it's a series deserving of the hype while sending shivers up your spine all in the process. This is my new favorite comedy anime of all time that I've watched 4 times since it finished airing in the winter 2019 season. Everything about this show, from characters that all have memorable personalities, comedic timing with such simple but perfect gags to leave me rolling with some touching closing moments to emotionally move you. The idea of 2 brainiacs competing to see who will say I love you first so they can wear the pants in the relationship and not let their ego break is gold for the idea alone. But the number of ways in a single core season they spiced up this idea left me rolling on the floor laughing. Everyone needs to watch Kaguya-sama, and if you have already, well, why not do it again? Though I had fun with Demon Slayer at the start, I was slightly put off by its shonen design comedy sequences, at least at the beginning. Quickly though, the series found its groove and thankfully became a world and cast of characters that remind me of the love I had when first experiencing Fullmetal Alchemist, a compliment I've never given before, but Demon Slayer made it impossible for me not to. It's hilarious, it's godly with action set pieces, but the emotional drive of Tanjiro trying to save his sister turned demon while being touched by how far the writing went into the demon side of things make me feel bad for what they have become, kept the series fresh with every step of the way. It easily could have just been that shonen of the season, but it ended up being a staple as to what you need to watch from the past decade of anime. Anyone who follows the channel long enough knows Attack on Titan is my favorite story of all time. I've read the manga more times than I can keep track of, and this was the turning point to showcase what the series has always been all this time. Unlike many authors who can get better with time, Isayama planned his story to such a degree that even events in the very first season set up what's to come nearly 8 years later. This arc is phenomenal, but combined with reflection of prior seasons, you realize how crazy his mind is and how much of a passion project this was for Studio Wit, despite starving themselves to make it. It's a masterpiece. Generally, a mix and match of properties falls flat on its face due to a lack of understanding of the original source materials in question, but this reverse isekai of taking isekai characters but then re-isekaiing them back into school where 4 properties are forced to interact with each other is just hilarious. The reason it worked out so well though is it feels as if the dialogue is actually pulled from their source material, and if a Konosuba character interacted with a ReZero character, this is absolutely how they should respond. It shouldn't work, but it did so flawlessly. I'd go as far to say this is my favorite anime of the year despite quite a few anime pushing for that title. I love music, I love the advancement of technology, but I also fear the future and the amount of humanity we lose in the process of advancing to the next big thing. Taking a medium I love so much tainted by so much artificial hands while focusing on the raw sound of humans writing music touched me on a deep-rooted emotional level. The sub and dub are fantastic, and both times I watched it I left feeling completely satisfied and utterly empty, all wrapped up into one. For myself, Watanabe did it again, and I put it up there with some of his best works to date. Now, I didn't grow up with Fruits Basket, I never watched it or read it at any point in time, but let me tell you, I'm a devoted follower of the cult of the basket now. Experiencing this journey with fans of the original anime, manga, or new just like myself as I reviewed it week by week really left a positive impact on my life. It was a surprisingly tame fandom that just loved this series, and seeing the level of detail put into this character piece made it one of the best anime this past year for me without a single doubt in my mind. Rather than it just being a harem like I thought it would be, instead what I watched was real human vulnerabilities and struggles as a cursed family and a cursed girl heal one another along the way. Now usually if a series didn't start airing this year I'd probably leave it out of the list, but 2/3 of it aired in 2019, so we're talking about Jojo, baby. I've always liked Jojo, but seeing Golden Wind flex its writing muscles made me foam at the mouth as I wait for part 6. Every character felt like the main character, and the variety of abilities and creative fights, it let Jojo part 5 end with a bang, without leaving many faults to think about. To me, this gangster story with a Jojo twist was everything that I wanted without realizing I ever wanted it in the first place, which is kind of awesome. Now, I'd go as far to say that Astra has some of the best pacing and resolution to its ideas that I've ever seen in the anime medium. Characters lost in space while building a web of conspiracies on the trip back home has so many big moments towards the end that make you think back to all these tiny details that actually ended up having a significance while also having those big what the hell moments to leave you speechless. Everything that should be tied up actually got tied up. And for the number of questions that it brought up with as many characters as it had, it should have fallen down at least a couple of times throughout its run, yet it didn't. All the characters became someone and all the moments feel memorable, so do yourself a favor and make sure you watch this thrilling adventure. If you look at this series on a surface level, you would think a mad scientist would rebuild Earth from a Stone Age setting that was forced upon them while disregarding people's lives, as that's what most smart characters do. Yet Senku actually feels relatable despite being in a league of his own with an unrivaled IQ, which I don't remember the last time I've ever seen that. You have numerous insane but possible inventions of modern day being rebuilt in the Stone Age. With hilarious shenanigans and emotional heart punches, Dr. Stone I thought would be fun, but I never would have expected it to be in my top 5 of the year. But this cast of characters and setting became something so unique that it sets itself apart, not just from this past year, but anime in general, thanks to a brilliant lead character and a one-of-a-kind anime setting. Fire Force started off fun for me, feeling like it was an early 2000s battle series, with all the flaws in sight, but into the second half it really found its footing and became sort of exceptional. The fire animation for all these infernal and human fights continues to blow me away with just how many unique ways fire is incorporated with tech and powers, but the characters across the board really started to shine in the back half of the first season. I had fun at the beginning, but by the end I was hyping up Fridays even more than I already was because of how great Fire Force became. Depending on the direction of future arcs, who knows how highly I'll rate it. You might want to claim it's just some Monster of the Week anime about a former captain of a war hunting down his demonic comrades, but really it's a captivating post-war character drama that, should it get more anime, excellent, but if not, the relationship between the central leads make it a fulfilling adventure as it stands. These kinds of anime, they tend to get overlooked by many, and maybe it's due to lackluster promotional material, but do yourself a favor and check out a special anime that's definitely worth your time and attention. Mario Okada will be hyped up on this channel until I stop making videos, and Maidens deserves all of my hype. The human body changing and becoming more adult is seen a fair amount through the eyes of males, but giving the focus to a group of high school girls becoming more and more curious with sex written by someone who understands how to write human characters allows for Maidens to be relatable, cringy, and creepy depending on the perspective, and it's all fantastic. This is an anime made for those in love with the lore of Fate or want a unique twist on one of Fate's best characters, Waver, with a slight detective formula. I'd go as far to say this is one of the franchise's best entries to date that went criminally underappreciated because I guess it didn't rely solely on flash and spectacle, but rather put an emphasis on characters and lore, and I guess that's apparently boring to some. I've actually seen some say they started watching it having had no idea that it was related to Fate in the slightest, and really enjoyed it, with others claiming you need to love Fate Zero and other entries to truly appreciate it. I say just try it and see what happens, because the only reason it didn't get as hyped up as other Fate series is because it wasn't a Holy Grail war, making some people sleep on it thinking it was boring, but it really wasn't. It was goddamn exceptional. If you love buddy cops and amazing bonds between partners, you need to watch Copcraft. A rift opens up, allowing for travel between worlds, one of which is magical but very medieval, and the other is more or less a future not too far off from our own. The hostility between species and how crime is explored, with two partners both from opposite ends of the portal, allows for the best quality of buddy cop relationships you could possibly hope for. Maybe the visuals might underwhelm some of you, but the story makes up for it tenfold. This is a top-tier anime at its finest. The amount of care put into its world, this gigantic cast of fascinating characters, detail to the animation that really goes all in at times, and the way it makes you crave the next dose of Vinland Saga means it's a crime should you not witness it. This was a series that I was sure never would get a great adaptation, as this was one of the 3 or 4 mangas I saw hyped up as it needs an anime, and if it does, it'll be one of the greatest series ever, and you can probably look at something like Berserk and see how well that usually works out. But the quality seen here once again shows that when Wit takes up a project they generally are damn passionate about, it becomes one of the best anime of the year. And this is a historical epic at its best. It'd be very easy to sleep on an anime like this that has demon and school in its name thinking it's the same bullshit we see, just instead of monster girls they are demons, but to my surprise this was a really charming show that twisted what I was expecting quite a bit. I mean, you have parents who sell their kid to demons, but then it turns out that this demon in question just wanted a grandson, so now he is sitting in a demon school trying to hide that he is a human as well. Their anthem is literally discussing how they eat humans. It's a series of unfortunate but also not so unfortunate events becoming so anime and entertaining that it was a very easy binge that always made me sad when I ran out of episodes to watch as I waited for more to release. This is actually an anime that I flipped my opinion on the hardest. It was alright at the start, but I didn't see the hype myself. But when I started to binge it later on, I was really sucked into its world and story surrounding literature and a girl who craves to read a good book despite her new world having very little of them. There are some surprisingly emotional moments as well, surrounded by cute sequences that just ended up being one of the best surprises of 2019 for myself. If you do try this anime and you're not seeing what others do in it, at least at the beginning, I would honestly recommend to power through, as it became something quite special in my eyes, and if you have any love in the beginning, it truly does pay off towards the end. This is just funny, what else can I say? Where Shield Hero broke the trends of a serious isekai anime, Cautious Hero broke them with comedic direction. Think of a video game character who is on their 3rd run of New Game Plus with all their stats intact, but instead of fighting the monster at hand, even if it's just a simple slime, they keep working out or finding new ways to be overly cautious, and it's hilarious. The best part is they never let the joke run stale, and by constantly spicing up the cast of characters, Seiya's antics always left me near tears and craving more. If there's any studio that I put money on, a majority of fans would be okay seeing a 3D work from, it's without a doubt Studio Orange. This adaptation of a very popular manga tells a very real, vulnerable, and a bunch of touchy subject matter revolving around herbivores and carnivores, allowing for these real-world social issues to be presented in a very fresh and interesting light. I thought it had potential, but anytime themes such as these are tackled, rarely do they handle them with care. But this tale does so with class, and I recommend anyone, fan of anime or not, to go watch this gem. It's easy to look at Psycho Pass and not see the hype we all shared with its first season, as even the 2015 movie, which I personally love, it didn't have that same spark that I felt at the beginning of Season 1. But Season 3 is a return to form, and I'd go as far to say might be my favorite entry to this universe. The 2 new lead characters are top tier, and the political stories and conspiracies just left me guessing as to what would be next, while also showing you how more anime need double-length episodes, as the reason that this season didn't fall flat on its face like Season 2 is this time they had the equivalent of 16 episodes done in 8. Hell, even if you haven't watched anything related to Psycho Pass, I'd say watch Season 3, as I just really enjoyed it and I want to see more watch it. But obviously you really should start from the beginning At this point, the aspect that shocks me the most with My Hero Academia is how the cast is getting their chance to shine across the board. Maybe not right now, but at some point it feels like everyone becomes a person, not just a character, which is saying something. A group of characters this large, you'd expect a handful to shine at best, but with this latest season seen here, even the small fry are getting their moments to blow us away. Mixed with the most insane villain to date, my love for this world continues to grow, and the new year is starting off right with this anime carrying over to 2020. I've seen many claim unless you played the game you can't watch this, and I'm here to say that simply is not true. I got up to like the third singularity as my game got corrupted, which was actually a blessing in disguise, as then I had time to work again and not be captured by gacha hell. Despite this taking place so late into the story, it's very easy to follow what's happening as the Babylonia tale stands tall as its own story, while references to past events don't overshadow the present. Cloverworks really flex what they were capable of with this adaptation, and at times mirrored some of my favorite ufotable fights in the world of Fate. Plus, it's a Gilgamesh story, so who doesn't want that? While it may not be a page-for-page adaptation of a beloved manga, as an anime story, I found it to be gripping and capturing my attention week by week. While it may not blow you away visually like some other anime, the level of detail put into the human reactions is something else and really makes you disturbed at multiple points, whether it be for violence or just violation. It's definitely far from perfect, but this is a brutal story living up to the time period that it's in, bringing a style of storytelling you rarely see in modern anime to light, so that fresh eyes can bask in this very interesting story. Maybe it won't please all the manga readers out there, but as an anime original, it definitely hooked me. It seems like many slept on Madhouse's return to form with No Guns Life, which is disappointing as this anime was quite special. You have a world with extended, these modified humans, which many may not even be able to be considered human anymore, with underground crimes and politics plaguing the streets. Cheesy 90s one-liners, metal action, and personal stories feeling like classic anime told in a modern light. So do yourself a favor and check out one of 2019's most unique anime. Babylon has ended up being one of my favorite thrillers in the past decade, and by anime standards, it set the bar of what other series need to do in order to live up to that tag that is so often underutilized. The idea of pushing a narrative to legalize suicide with sound and just argument, while a crazy lunatic commits murder to then make it look like suicide, allows for this anime to take you on the wildest ride you probably missed out on. The first 3 episodes serve as arc 1, with episodes 4 through 7 being the next installment, and then obviously finishing up with the big punchline. Each arc leads off on some form of insanity, and it without much struggle became one of my favorites of 2019, despite not thinking it would be all that special initially walking in. Boy was my face red when I first finished episode 3. 2019 was a killer year for anime, at least for someone like me. All the series that I was expecting to be great pretty much were, but then there was so many that no one saw coming that took the community by storm. There's plenty of genres that had great entries to them, and I probably didn't mention them, but hey, you can't expect a guy to watch 1,000 anime a year and expect him not to go insane. So that's where I pass the torch over to you. Whatever you enjoyed from this past year, why not let me know your favorites down in the comment section below. I love to hear what you are passionate about, which most likely will get me to check out some other heavy hitters that I might have slept on. Remember to leave a like if you did enjoy, and also be sure to subscribe if you have been new around here. But lastly, there's always my Patreon for those who want to go the extra mile and help support what I do around here even more, but of course, that's always if you so wish. So until next time everyone, please take care, and have a good one.